and welcome to Clearview Television News. We're reaching you live from Nigeria's capital city, Abuja. In the news, Nigeria and South Africa move to enhance peace building and application of scientific research findings to foster social and economic development on the African continent. Abuja Federal High Court dismisses suit seeking to stop Independent National Electoral Commission from going ahead with the collation and announcement of the March 9 governorship election in Rivers State. Members of Parliament in Britain in a final push to end the logjam on Brexit ahead of the April 12th deadline. I am Rose Audu with the details of these and more. The Independent Corrupt and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, says despite the controversy associated with constituency projects inserted in annual national budgets at the behest of lawmakers, it strongly believes that the impact of such projects on the lives of ordinary Nigerians could be more rewarding if fully executed. Chairman of the Commission, Professor Bolaji Owasanoye, made this observation amid reports that tend to suggest that constituency projects are subject to abuse and a drain of pipeline for corruption. Clearview TV's Anyete Patrick has more.
In the global context, a constituency project is a project conceived by a legislator or a committee or group within a constituency, acting in collaboration with their legislator to execute a community-based project or deliver service to constituents. These projects are intended for developmental projects such as water, rural electrification, rural clinics, among others. Chairman of the Commission says over the years, constituency projects have become enmeshed in controversy between non-state actors, the promoters of the project, and the communities that are supposed to benefit from the projects.
The level of implementation of constituency projects in 16 focus states for 2015 is quite revealing. Out of 436 constituency projects for that year that were tracked, I think by budget, 145 were completed, 77 reported as ongoing, 211 not executed at all. For 2016, 852 projects in 20 states tracked, 350 completed, 118 ongoing, 41 locations not specified, 343 projects not done at all, given a percentage of about 40% percentage performance in 20 states.
In keeping with the obligation of the states to foster a feeling of belonging and involvement among the various peoples of the Federation enshrined in Section 15, Subsection 4 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999, as amended, ICPC launched the Constituency Projects Tracking Group to investigate fraudulent procurement practices in the award of contracts for constituency projects.
The level of the delivery of constituency projects necessitates the formation of the Constituency Projects Tracking Group. The formation of this tracking group will enhance this Commission's ability to proactively prevent and eradicate the diversion of public funds by public officers or collaborators. By ensuring the implementation of the projects, the Commission will be supporting the government's objective of bringing development closer to the people. Any public officer, legislator, civil servant, company that attempts to sabotage the projects can be identified, investigated, prosecuted, and if violations of the Act or any other law prohibiting corruption are established, we will follow that process.
Stakeholders from civil society organizations, media, and the Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors says there is need to support anti-corruption campaign as it is a killer of the nation's development, as a summary of funds given out in the last 20 years on constituency project from the national budget sums up to 1.3 trillion naira, hence the need to promote good governance and transparency. Anyete Patrick, reporting for Clearview Television.
Nigeria and South Africa have agreed to push for greater collaboration in science and technology to advance economic development on the African continent. This renewed commitment received a boost this Tuesday in Abuja when top officials of Nigeria's Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution and their counterparts from South Africa's Human Sciences Research Council met with Nigeria's Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Ogbonnaya Onu. Now, the report. Speaking at the event, the Acting Director General Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution, Dr. Baktok Tswa, stressed the need for African countries to come together for the growth of the continent and therefore solicited the partnership of the Ministry of Science and Technology. Dr. Tswa said this has become imperative if the institute must achieve its mandate of providing training aimed at building clusters of peace practitioners in Africa, especially in South Africa and Nigeria.
For us to come and visit you, so you can see what is it that this institute can do. And let's see how Nigeria can collaborate. As for us in the institute, since I became the acting DG in August, I have tried to reposition the institute.
The Executive Director, South Africa's Institute of Human Sciences Research Council, Professor Cheryl Hendricks, applauded the Minister, Dr. Ogbonnaya Onu, for putting so much for the Ministry of Science and Technology, especially in the area of research. She said the time has come for the continent's two largest economies to help build a conflict-free African continent.
To extend greetings on behalf of the Minister of Science and Technology, as well as to just make contact and to see how we can also get points where we can deepen our collaboration and our bilateral relations here. The Institute, the Africa Institute of South Africa, is an old institute formed in the 1960s already, so we have a long relationship with other African countries, with other African scholars and policymakers and practitioners across the continent.
Responding, the Minister, Dr. Onu, commended the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution, IPCR, for seeking collaboration with the Ministry of Science and Technology to promote peace in Africa, noting that South Africa and Nigeria could do more for the continent if they work together in unity.
Technology is taking the lead in line with the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan 2017-2020 of our nation, which has recognized science, technology and innovation as being at the center of all economic activities in the country. So we're taking the lead to move Nigeria away from our economy relying entirely on commodities, on resources, to now rely on knowledge. So we are building, we're in the process, we are taking the steps, very important steps, the initial steps, to build a knowledge society.
Dr. Ogbonnaya restated the Nigerian government's willingness to work with South Africa to fast-track scientific and technological development in Africa. Rose Audu. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control has alerted the public, especially healthcare providers, on the existence of a fake cholera vaccine known as the Coral, being produced in Bangladesh. A statement by NAFDAC's Director General, Professor Muji Adeyeye, says the packaging of the falsified Coral vaccine displays a test in English and French languages. Professor Adeyeye said that the World Health Organization had quarantined some quantities of the falsified vaccine, identified as the Coral oral cholera vaccine, with batch number KV8262B1 and expiring date of 2020 April, while the stated manufacturer is Vanova Canada Incorporated. While noting that the logo of the manufacturer, Crocell, is also displayed on the fake vaccine, he said that the manufacturer of the genuine Coral oral cholera vaccine is Vanova Sweden AB, formerly Crocell Sweden AB. She added that surveillance had been strengthened by NAFDAC at all ports of entry to prevent illegal importation of the falsified Doctoral oral cholera vaccine from Bangladesh and advised anybody in possession of the falsified vaccine to submit it to the nearest NAFDAC office. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board has deregistered 14 computer-based test centers in some parts of the country over what it describes as deceit and technical infractions. The affected CBT centers were among the 712 JAMB accredited nationwide to participate in the mock exam and the 2019 UTME exercise scheduled to commence on April 14. JAMB said it realized that the affected CBT centers borrowed computer systems during accreditation. To make up the number of required systems to get JAMB accreditation for the 2019 UTME exercise, its registrar, Professor Isaac Oloyede, stated this in Abuja shortly after he and the Minister of Education, Malam Adamu, with other government officials monitored the mock examination in some CBT centers in the Federal Capital Territory. Ahead of the 2019 UTME, Oloyede also said that 2 JAMB officials escaped death while monitoring the mock UTME in Lagos on Monday. According to him, the affected officials were attacked for insisting that the right thing must be done at a particular CBT center around Lagos State Polytechnic. However, shortly after monitoring the conduct of the mock exercise, the Education Minister told journalists that he is confident over JAMB's ability to conduct a credible examination. A total of 157,000 candidates sat for the mock UTME across the country. A federal high court sitting in Abuja has dismissed a suit filed by the African Action Congress and 3 of its members seeking to stop the Independent National Electoral Commission from concluding and collating the results of the March 9, 2019 governorship and State House of Assembly elections in Rivers State. Justice Inyang Ekwo, in his judgment, held that the reliefs sought by the plaintiffs were post-election issues and therefore that cannot be entertained by the court. Our correspondent, Anieta Patrick, has more.
Delivering a judgment on the suits filed by the African Action Congress and 3 of its members against the collation of Rivers State elections, Justice Inyang Ekwo upheld the preliminary objection filed by the People's Democratic Party to challenge the jurisdiction of the courts to hear the case. Justice Ekwo had on March 20th refused to grant an ex parte motion filed by the candidates of the African Action Congress, Biokpomabo Awara, seeking to stop the collation, announcement and conclusion of the election without hearing the Independent National Electoral Commission. He ruled that once an election is held, the Federal High Court or the State High Court cannot assume or exercise jurisdiction over such matters, as it is the duty of the Election Petition Tribunal. The judge agreed with the PDP that the Federal High Court lacked jurisdiction to hear the case on the grounds that the issues raised by the plaintiffs bordered on post-election matters, which can only be entertained by an Election Petition Tribunal. The judge further held that the suit was an attempt by the plaintiffs to make the court constitute itself into an Election Petition Tribunal. The plaintiffs had in their suits challenged INEC's decision to resume the announcement of the results of the election, which it had earlier said was marred by violence and irregularities. They had contended that the credibility of the election had been affected by violence, disruption, and appointment of alleged PDP members by INEC in the conduct of the election, and that the electoral body ought to conduct a fresh election. Anita Patrick, reporting for Clearview Television.
And President Muhammadu Buhari has again assured Nigerians that he will put in all efforts to ensure the best for the country and her citizens during his second term in office, which begins on May 29. He restated this while receiving the Board of Trustees and Advisory Council of Katsina State Development Fund led by Justice Mama Nasir at the State House, Abuja. Clearview TV's Onyeti Patrick completes the story.
The president said the crowd that welcomed his campaign train in each state was more than anyone can possibly induce. He attributed the turnout to people's appreciation of the efforts of his administration. President Buhari noted that he was the chairman of the Katsina State Development Fund for 17 years, during which period a lot was done to support education, healthcare, and agriculture in the state, especially for those that were less privileged.
The leader of the Gideon Jihar, distinguished gentlemen, I think I'm trying to make my address less emotional.
In his remark, the Galadima of Katsina, Maman Nasir, said the foundation returns gratitude to God and all Nigerians for giving President Buhari the opportunity to serve another term in office.
We have written, it's no more than a short summary of what you have done in this particular foundation, and the state is still grateful for the service he rendered as chairman of Gideon Jihar. Our main happiness is that our view has been supported by the Nigerians.
Onyeti Patrick, reporting for Clearview Television.
President Muhammadu Buhari's first tenure anchored on the change agenda dwelt on fighting corruption, combating insurgency, diversifying the Nigerian economy, as well as improving infrastructure. With the electoral victory of the president in the February 23 poll, expectations are high among Nigerians on how far the administration's commitment to take the nation to the next level will be like. Clearview TV's Prudence Okona was on the streets of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, to sample views on what President Buhari should focus on during his second tenure to improve the general well-being of the people. Her findings are revealing.
My expectation for his administration as Mr. President of this country, if he can reorganize himself and look to a pensioners and look to how salary will be paid to the retired ones and the present people, it will be much better.
Some people are in the civil service for they are over 60, they are still there. And when they even finally retire from the work, they will go and bring their children. First and foremost, I want the president to reduce the service year to 25 years. So that other youth, small children can gain access to the work. And I want them to set an agenda whereby it's not that you will retire and go and bring your children. This money, this salary belongs to the whole Nigeria. This work belongs to the Nigeria. So everybody have access to work as a Nigerian. And you should put the economy in space, in a good process.
Things like empowerment. He has to empower the youth. If you look at the people of Nigeria now, so some people cannot eat 3 meals a day again. And there is so many hardship. Even we, the civil servants, the demands of our relatives that are not working, that they are expecting from us is high. So I don't know. For a president to sit down, he has to think that yes, if today Nigeria cannot eat 3 meals a day, there is a question mark. There is a big problem. So we pray for him to change his pattern, most especially the cabinet. Let him reshuffle it. Even the ministers that are not ready to work with him, let him let him skip them away, and bring people that will work to the favor of the masses in Nigeria.
I would suggest, since he has tried to use a certain policy in the previous government, he should know now that if it's going to be feasible or not. And if it's not going to be feasible, then he should try to get other ways to do things. And one of my issues with the current president now, President Buhari, is he seems to think he has everything under control, but really he doesn't. That's why you have aides, you have ministers, you have assistants and whatnot. You delegate some things to people. If you don't trust someone, you can't know the outcome of a particular event. You can't say, I don't trust this one. I'm not going to give him this. I'm not going to give him that. I'm going to become the minister of NMPC and whatnot. You have to, you know, give someone a chance. At least 4 years is enough time for you to, at least a year, you could tell if someone is doing something reasonable or not.
For the area of Niger Delta, I want to suggest there's no coast guide. Everybody is just doing what he likes. Trawling vessels from neighboring countries just come into our Nigerian territory and begin to swoop all those small fishes, which are not supposed to be. So the Niger Delta, from the Niger Delta region, I think government can recruit and set up a national guard.
As to some of the things we expect from His Excellency the President, now that he has won again the second time, a lot of Nigerians actually expect power, an improvement in the power sector generally. Power is extremely very important. Without power, one cannot really achieve much. For those in manufacturing, for those for the nation growing, for the sake of industrialization generally, power is extremely very important.
All right, Nigerians have spoken. They have given the agenda. They have set the agenda. They have said what they want Mr. President to do. And from the Federal Capital Territory, I am Prudence Okona reporting for Clearview Television.
You're watching Clearview Television News. We will be back after this timeout.
This is Ibrahim calling from Niger State, Barking Power.
Oh, this is Anissa from Benin.
My name is John, calling from Niger.
My name is Ahmed, I'm calling from Kogi State.
This is Clearview TV, and this is our spread through free-to-air via Niconsat and online.
Yes, this is Difus calling you from Adamawa State.
Adamawa Ahmad Ibrahim.
Ahmad Ibrahim the Gochaja kenan.
Daga Yuri. I'm calling from Benue. My name is Chukwemeka. I'm calling from Niger State.
You can imagine how far your advertisements, social announcements, official notices, and jingles will go if you patronize us. It's time to take your messages far at the cheapest rate.
Welcome back. The presidency has expressed its condolences to the family of Kolade Johnson, the Nigerian youth who was allegedly killed by a stray police bullet while watching a football match at the viewing center at number 1 Beko Street, Onikpetes, Mangoro bus stop in Lagos. Johnson was killed by a stray bullet from one of the anti-cultism police officers who were operating in the area. The Lagos State Commissioner of Police, Zubairu Mawazu, while also condoling with the family, friends and well-wishers of Kolade Johnson, appealed for calm, assuring that justice will be made to prevail in the case. Already, the spokesman of the Lagos State Police Command, Bala Elkanah, the Deputy Superintendent of Police, says members of the police team who killed Johnson have been apprehended. Elkanah said the personnel who fled the scene immediately after the shooting incident are currently in police custody, undergoing interrogation. He assured that they will be subjected to internal disciplinary procedures and may be prosecuted in conventional court if implicated by ongoing investigation. And bowing to pressure from the public, the Nigerian Police Force this Tuesday published the names and photographs of the alleged killers of Kolade Johnson, who was gunned down in Mangoro area of Lagos on Sunday. The police identified the suspect as Inspector Olalekon Ogunyemi and Sergeant Godwin Oji, both attached to the anti-cultism squad. The Nigerian Army says it will set up mini zoos and parks as well as units to keep and maintain live mascots in order to strengthen efforts aimed at curtailing the security challenges across the nation. This was made known at a seminar organized by the Department of Army Standards and Evaluation in Regimentation and combating security challenges associated with forest and protected areas. Clearview TV's Uju Onyemechalu now tells us more.
Enhancing synergy between Nigerian Army and National Park Service, national security in perspective, is the theme of the seminar. The theme underscores the need by the Nigerian Army to collaborate and synergize with other security agencies such as the National Park Service in combating contemporary security threats bedeviling the nation. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, represented by the Chief of Policy and Plans, Major General Ali Nani, is hopeful that the seminar will strengthen regimentation through the use of mascots by all existing units, as well as introduction of mascots to all the newly created units and formations.
The main thrust of the seminar is the strengthening of regimentation through the maintenance of mascots by all existing units, as well as introduction of mascots to all the newly created units and formations. The initiative will require close cooperation of forest and animal conservative organizations who are responsible for protected areas all over Nigeria. As you all know, the Army, as part of its customs, ethics, and tradition, adopts mascots as part of its regimentation. Mascots are objects, animals, or persons that are chosen as a symbol of a regiment and are assumed to bring good luck.
In his welcome address, the Chief of Army Standard and Evaluation, Major General Adekunle Shodunke, says regimentation and maintenance of mascots and establishment of parks and mini-zoos in Nigerian Army cantonments and barracks will assist to build capacity of troops in combating the emerging security challenges associated with game reserves, forests, and protected areas across the nation.
The essence of this seminar is to enlighten participants on regimentation, maintenance of mascots, and establishment of parks and mini-zoos in Nigerian Army cantonments and barracks. In addition, it will assist to build capacity of our troops in combating the emerging security challenges associated with game reserves, forests, protected areas, and all the areas that the criminals are using to commit havoc. The Nigerian Army, as part of the Armed Forces of Nigeria, is currently engaged in several ongoing internal security operations in aid of civil authority to ensure security across the nation in line with our constitutional roles.
The one-week seminar has participants drawn from Nigerian Army formations, National Park Service, Federal Department of Forestry, National Environmental Standard Regulation Enforcement Agency, and other stakeholders. Uju Onyemechalu reporting for Clearview Television.
A new publication titled Nigeria's Defense and Security: The Role of Military Families has joined the bookshelf. At its public presentation in Abuja this Tuesday, President Muhammadu Buhari's wife, Aisha, challenged women, particularly wives of military personnel, to take the lead as motivators and peace ambassadors for a safe and secured society. Again, Clearview TV's Uju Onyemechalu was there and now completes the story.
The book underscores the challenges which military families face in their peculiar circumstances. It also underscores the role which military spouses play, not just in cultivating and nurturing the family, but also in determining the core decisions which the family takes in changing challenging circumstances. At the event, the wife of the president, Aisha Buhari, commended the efforts of defense and police officers' wives in boosting the morale of their husbands, particularly in conflict areas, and ensuring that the peace of the nation is properly policed. She therefore charged them to become motivators and peace carriers in their various family units.
I wish to commend your efforts in boosting the role of military police and police officers who are your spouses, especially in period of crisis. Similarly, I am indeed happy that the forward is doing everything possible to raise the level of consciousness in the society as mothers, wives, and sisters to people outside the barracks. I trust and hope that you continue to promote those ideas and values that will further encourage and maintain peace, as well as the prevention of social and criminal vices.
The president of Defense and Police Officers' Wives Association, Omobolanle Olonishakin, who is also the wife of the Chief of Defense Staff, General Gabriel Olonishakin, is optimistic that the book will assist global communities in fashioning solutions to issues concerning the military personnel and their families.
We have put together a compilation captioned Nigeria's Defense and Security Roles of Military Families that is being presented at this ceremony. I feel sure that this book, which comes in several chapters, will cross international boundaries and assist the global community in fashioning solutions to issues concerning military families. We have also thought it fit to allocate a chapter of the book to a general discussion of the history of DIPOA, so that those coming after us will have useful information about our association. Let me assure everyone here that all of the proceeds from this book presentation will go into charity, especially for widows.
In attendance were members of officers' wives from the Nigerian Defense, Army, Navy, Nigerian Air Force, the Nigerian Police, head of military institutions serving and retired military officers, and members of the National Council of Women Societies. Uju Onyemechalu reporting for Clearview Television.
You're watching Clearview Television News. We will be back after this time out.
This is Ibrahim calling from Niger State, Working Power.
Oh, this is Anita from Benin.
My name is John, calling from Niger.
My name is Ahmed. I'm calling from Kogi State.
This is Clearview TV, and this is our spread through free-to-air via Niconsat and online.
Yes, this is Diffus calling you from Adamawa State. Adamawa Ahmad Ibrahim.
Mala Ahmad Ibrahim the Gochaja kenan.
Daga Yuri.
I'm calling from Clearview. My name is Chukwemeka. I'm calling from Niger State.
You can imagine how far your advertisements, social announcements, official notices, and jingles will go if you patronize us. It's time to take your messages far at the cheapest rate.
There it is. What a shot from Tiger. And the Jamaican juggernaut scores his first goal for a professional side. And
welcome back. And on sports, Super Eagles and Al Nassr Saudi Arabia forward Ahmed Musa has emerged the Nigerian Player of the Year 2018 at the second ITO NFF Football Awards held Monday night at the Echo Hotel and Suites, Victoria Island, Lagos. Musa beat the duel of Alex Iwobi of Arsenal and Odion Igalo of Chelsea club Shanghai Shenhua to claim the award. Musa also claimed a double defeat by winning the Best Goal of the Year award. The female category of the award was won by Onome Ebi, who plies her football trade with Henan Hushang in the Chinese Women's Super League. The glamorous ceremony was well attended by eminent football personalities across Nigeria, Africa and the world. The 1994 set of the Super Eagles were especially honored, with most of the players present. In attendance at the grand occasion were top Nigerian football heroes and top politicians. Also honored were Governor Akinwumi Ambode of Lagos State and the late Africa's pillar of sport, Chief MKO Abiola. FIFA's first female Secretary General, Fatma Samora, who was present at the awards ceremony, was also especially honored. Nigeria winger Samuel Chukwueze and his Villarreal teammates will face a daunting task in their bid to escape the drop when the host champions Barcelona in a La Liga clash, just as from none other Estadio de la Ceramica. The Yellow Submarines occupy 17th position in the La Liga table with 29 points from 29 matches. With 9 games remaining before the end of the campaign, a win in this encounter will no doubt boost Javi Kaleja's men survivor hopes. Barcelona won the reverse fixture last December at the Camp Nou 2-0 with Gerard Piqué and Charles Alena scoring both goals. Chukwueze, who broke into the first team late last year, was not dressed for the game. The 19-year-old has featured in 18 La Liga games for Villarreal this season and has scored 3 times. He was named a Young Player of the Year at the 2018 edition of the Aito NFF Football Awards at the Echo Hotel and Suites, Lagos on Monday. Unai Emery says his primary goal is to create a big atmosphere rather than worry about securing Champions League qualification with Arsenal. The Gunners moved into 3rd in the Premier League table, 2 points above Tottenham, after a 2-0 win over Newcastle United at Emirates Stadium on Monday. It was their 10th home win in a row in the league, a run that has included victories over closest rivals Manchester United, Spurs and Chelsea, and puts them in a strong position to seal the top 4 spots. Emery insists it will still be tough to seal a return to Europe's elite club competition, but he is more concerned about establishing a positive rapport with the Emirates crowd than focusing on their league position. A big challenge was to win again, and it's not easy to win games consecutively. The Arsenal boss told a news conference, "We showed we can win with different players and formations, and the players who came on, their impact was good. We want to create that good team spirit. Our target is very difficult, and step by step, we are getting there. We were lazy after the first 2 games this season, and now we are 3rd, but there are still very difficult games ahead. The next challenge, away to Everton, is a big one as we need to convince people we can also be consistent away. We were playing key matches against Manchester United, Tottenham and Chelsea. We had this opportunity and won this opportunity because we were being consistent, winning more matches to be closer to them. Now, I know it's going to be difficult to stay in the top 4. I'm not thinking about that. My first target is to create a big atmosphere. We are creating it little by little." Aaron Ramsey, who was made captain for the game, scored Arsenal's first goal and was a standout performer until he went off in the second half with what Emery said was cramp. Emery hopes the midfielder continues to feel happy and committed to ending the season strongly before he completes his move to Juventus for next season. You are watching Clearview Television News. We will be back after this timeout.
There it is. What a shot from Tiger. And the Jamaican juggernaut scores his first goal for a professional side. And
This is Ibrahim calling from Niger State, Barking Power.
Oh, this is Anita from Benin.
My name is John, calling from Niger.
My name is Ahmed. I'm calling from Kogi State.
This is Clearview TV, and this is our spread through free-to-air via Niconsat and online.
Yes, sir. This is Diffus calling you from Adamawa State. Adamala Ahmad Ibrahim.
Mala Ahmad Ibrahim the Gocha Jai kenan.
Daga Yuri.
I'm calling from Clearview. My name is Chukwemeka. I'm calling from Niger State.
You can imagine how far your advertisements, social announcements, official notices, and jingles will go if you patronize us. It's time to take your messages far at the cheapest rate.
Welcome back. And on the foreign news, the presidency said on Tuesday that the execution of the Nigerian woman over drug-related offense on Monday in Saudi Arabia was pathetic and tragic. The Nigerian woman was among 4 persons executed by the Saudi authorities on Monday, according to that country's interior ministry. The others were 2 Pakistani men and a Yemeni man. Saudi Arabia has executed 53 people this year alone over such offenses. The senior special assistant to the president on diaspora, Abike Dabiri Erewa, who expressed the Nigerian government's concern, recalled that the woman is the 8th Nigerian to die in similar circumstances. Speaking with State House correspondents in Abuja, the senior special assistant disclosed that 20 other people are still on the death row, besides 12 more already sentenced to various jail terms. She said that the government is saddened by the fact that in some instances, the unfortunate Nigerians were victims of drug cartels working with some airline workers. Dabiri Erewa said in some cases, drugs were steadily put in the bags of unsuspecting pilgrims by the cartels, who only for them to be picked up on arrival in Saudi Arabia. She stated that for such isolated cases, it was the desire of Nigeria. She, however, said the Nigerian government is taking steps to evacuate citizens visiting Saudi Arabia to avoid getting into trouble by ensuring that they keep watch over their bags. The senior special assistant further appealed to the Saudi authorities to make the trial fair, open, and ensure that justice is done, so that even if convicts are going to die, they will know that they are dying for an offense they committed. And the World Health Organization says the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo is spreading at its fastest rate, 8 months after its resurgence was first detected. In a statement on Monday, WHO said a record number of new cases has been registered in the past 2 weeks, marking a sharp setback for efforts at containing the second biggest outbreak ever. The resurgence of the Ebola outbreak is coming at a time militia violence and community resistance have impeded access to affected areas. Less than 3 weeks ago, the WHO said the outbreak of the hemorrhagic fever was largely contained and could be stopped by September, noting that weekly case numbers had reduced to about 25, being a half of the number earlier reported in the year. WHO spokesman Christian Lindmeier said the number of cases hit a record of 57 the following week and then jumped to 72 last week, compared to previous spikes of around 50 cases per week documented in late January and mid-November. According to Congo's health ministry data, about 3/4 of Ebola deaths last week occurred outside of treatment centers, meaning there is a much greater chance they transmitted the virus to those around them. The current outbreak is believed to have killed 676 people and infected 406 others. Another 331 patients are reported to have recovered. In the past 2 months, 5 Ebola centers have been attacked, some by armed militiamen. The attack forced French medical charity Médecins Sans Frontières to suspend its activities in 2 of the most affected areas. Another challenge has been a mistrust of first responders, some of who do not believe the disease was real. More than 11,000 people died in West Africa's 2013-2016 Ebola outbreak. Since then, health authorities have worked to speed up their responses and deploy yet an experimental vaccine and treatment, both of which have been considered effective. And a cross-party group of MPs has put forward a bill to prevent a no-deal Brexit in 10 days' time. If passed into law, the bill would require Prime Minister Theresa May to ask for an extension of Article 50, which mandates the UK's exit date from the EU, beyond the current 12 April deadline. Labour MP Yvette Cooper presented the bill for debate on Wednesday. Meanwhile, the EU's chief negotiator, Michael Barnier, has said a no-deal Brexit is now more likely but can still be avoided. Barnier said a long extension to the UK's 12 April exit date had significant risks for the EU and a strong justification would be needed. Tory MP Sir Oliver Letwin, who supports Cooper's bill, said this is a last-ditch attempt to prevent our country being exposed to the risks inherent in a no-deal exit. Cooper said that the UK was in a very dangerous situation and MPs have a responsibility to make sure Britain did not end up with a catastrophic no deal. In March, MPs voted against leaving the EU without a deal, but it was not legally binding. Normally, the government chooses which bills to present to Parliament in order for them to become law. But much to the government's disapproval, MPs voted to allow backbenchers to take charge of business in the Commons on Wednesday. This gives backbenchers the opportunity to set aside more time on Thursday, which could be used to pass the bill into law as they will be in charge. The bill would need to go through the usual process before it becomes law, including being agreed by the House of Lords and receiving royal assent. Prime Minister May's plan for the UK's departure has been rejected by MPs 3 times. Last week, Parliament took control of the process away from the government in order to hold a series of votes designed to find an alternative way forward. 8 options were put to MPs, but none was able to command a majority. And on Monday night, a whittle down for were rejected too. And Venezuela's Supreme Court has ordered that the parliamentary immunity of the opposition leader Juan Guaido be stripped, a move that could lead to his being jailed. The pro-government Constituent Assembly is expected to back the request. Guaido declared himself interim leader in January, gaining the support of more than 50 countries, including the United States. However, President Nicolas Maduro, who still retains the crucial backing of the country's military, has more allies too that are backing his troubled regime. Amid a power struggle between the two, Venezuela has seen growing street protests over lack of water and electricity, a development that has forced the government to reduce the number of working days and keep schools closed due to power cuts. Only on Monday, the electricity minister, Luis Mota, was replaced with an electrical engineer. The government claims the blackouts are part of sabotage to force Maduro out of office. The court ruling said Guaido should be prosecuted for violating a travel ban when he toured several Latin American countries a few weeks ago. The Supreme Court has already banned him from holding office for a period of 15 years and arrested his right-hand man on terrorism charges. Guaido has not recognized the decision as having any legitimacy and is unlikely to change anything in his attempt to remove and replace Maduro as president. The U.S. has repeatedly warned the Maduro government that arresting or harming Guaido would have serious consequences. Maduro narrowly won a presidential election in 2013 after the death of his mentor, President Hugo Chavez. He was elected to a second term in 2018 in an election seen as flawed by international observers. And NASA has called India's destruction of a satellite a terrible thing that could threaten the International Space Station. The space agency chief, Jean Bridenstine, said that the risk of debris colliding with the International Space Station had risen by 44% over 10 days due to the test. However, he said the International Space Station is still safe if adequate steps are taken to contain the destruction caused by India's satellite. In an address to NASA employees, Bridenstine sharply criticized the testing of such anti-satellite weapons. He said that NASA had identified 400 pieces of orbital debris and was tracking 60 pieces larger than 10 centimeters in diameter, adding that 24 of those pieces pose a potential risk to the International Space Station. A day after India successfully carried out its Assad test, acting U.S. Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan warned that the event could create a mess in space, but said Washington was still studying the impact. Though he has insisted it carried out the test in low Earth orbit at an altitude of 300 kilometers, equivalent to 186 miles, to not leave space debris that could collide with the ISS or satellites. India is the fourth country to have carried out such a test. Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced the test, Mission Shakti, with great fanfare on 27 March, saying it had established India as a space power. China provoked international alarm with a similar test in 2007. Arms control advocates have expressed concern about the increasing militarization of space. Assad's technology would allow India to take out the satellites of enemy powers in any conflict, and the test is likely to fuel the growing regional rivalry between India and China. Opposition parties in India have accused Modi of using the test as a political stunt ahead of a general election. Indians will begin voting in national elections on April 11. And that's the news. Remember that you can subscribe to our YouTube channel via Clearview TV. Like us on Facebook via Clearview Television Online. Follow us on Twitter at Clearview Online. Follow us on Instagram at Clearview TV_NG. You can also watch Clearview TV on Nightcomsat with any free-to-air decoder. For details, contact your local installer. I am Rose Audu. Many thanks for watching.